Mr. Williams, we are live.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. Welcome to today's PAW meeting, Wednesday, September 8th. We have Mrs. DeGraw, Mr. Johnson, our elementary principal, and Annie Dowling, substitute extraordinaire, and grateful for everything that she does in our district. We'll get started. Hopefully we'll have a few more come in from the high fitness group. If not, I hope you enjoy the PAW meeting via Zoom today. We'll go ahead and get started right off with Title I program overview. One of the requirements of Title I program is that we do have annual meetings to be able to share with parents and individuals what our Title I program is, how it helps our schools. And nothing's really changed with Title I over the years. So parents that have been to different meetings, you'll be able to see that this is pretty familiar with what we have. So what is Title I? Title I are funds that we have that are utilized by the school district to supplement our core instruction. And these are federal funds, and they have certain requirements that need to be done. Meetings such as this meet those requirements, but it also is used to help the most needy students or academically. West Jefferson, we do receive Title I funds in various forms. There are multiple different levels of Title I. There's your general Title I fund. Title II funds are under this umbrella of that. Title II funds are used for professional development for teachers. You'd have Title V. There's just so many different things. And the reason why they call them titles is because those are federal laws where they came from. And so they're just referred back to the federal code that they came from. West Jefferson, we receive approximately $90,000 in Title I funds. And how do we use that? Funds are used to hire paraprofessionals. If there's anything left over after that, we purchase intervention programs, additional instruction before or after school, or staff training. So some of the things that we have when you come to school and you see the paraprofessionals that are working in our reading intervention programs, they are generally hired through Title I funds. Another example, specifically Mrs. Bell at the high school, where she comes in before and after school to help students with anything that comes from Title I funds. And so these are additional funds that are just used to help kids. Who qualifies for Title I services in the district? Oh, got it there. You want to push that not now. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah, that's the red one. Yep, perfect. Who qualifies for Title I school districts? Because we have more than 40% of our students who qualify for free or reduced lunch, we are a Title I district at all of our schools. And so that means it's school-wide, and that's the part that I want to emphasize. If our school was a non-school-wide Title I school, we would have to have an application process for kids to be able to work with those paraprofessionals. And we're really grateful that we don't, because it just takes off a lot of those strings attached, and we're able to help any kid that needs it, regardless of their socioeconomic or the free and reduced lunch status. And so all of our schools meet this status as school-wide, so we're able to take those funds and distribute them how we need to. One thing that's changing this year is because our school lunch programs are no longer tracking free and reduced lunch for the last 2 years. I believe this is going off of the census data. And so the census data that comes out, other things that help track this are those that qualify for assistance, food stamps. Those families are automatically tracked through health and welfare and reported to the state. So some of the things are changing with the free and reduced status. You've noticed that we didn't have that out during back to school. We didn't feel like it was necessary to have everybody sign up for it when the actual lunch was going to be free for the year. And so we'll see if this changes with Title I services going forward. And really, it's just a reporting on seeing where we qualify for it. How does it help as a parent? Really how it helps as a parent, the same way it helps the schools, is that we can help kids more efficiently. We have more resources to help kids. That's the first thing that we have. The second part, there's a small amount. We always budget a couple $100 that can go towards family activity nights to buy either some light refreshments or something to have for parents. So parents, it doesn't help you out. Annie, I can't pay your bills with the Title I money, but it's one of those things. Poor Annie's going to be the only one here. And I'm going to have to pick on.
That's why I'm
here. But only after hours, so it's not using the school fund. That was from a different meeting, so there's an inside joke from another meeting. So if anybody missed the last meeting, you go back on our YouTube channel and knock yourself out on that one. What can parents do to help? Be familiar with the school compact. I'm going to talk about what our school compact is. We'll have that out during parent-teacher conference. Our teachers will be able to go over that with the parents. Attend meetings such as parent-teacher conferences that will be coming up, our PAW meetings, listen into the PAW meetings, be involved that way in the classrooms. Our PTO parents, our PTO has a list for parents to sign up to come volunteer in the classrooms. It's just a great way. And I do have on this last bullet, apply for free and reduced lunch. That doesn't apply anymore. We're still waiting really for guidance from the State Department who helps guide us in the Title I requirements. So that's where we're at. Let's talk about the homeschool compact. Here's an example that Mr. Johnson is working on to have ready for the upcoming parent-teacher conference. What a homeschool compact is, it just talks about different responsibilities, what the student should do with their behavior, what parents can do. But it's not just the parents or the student, classroom teacher and the building administrator. If we work together as a team, and that's where the research does show, schools that are able to work together with their academic concerns or behavior concerns, parents helping kids get here to school, parents helping make sure that students are working on their homework and completing different things. That's what the school compact is for. So this is just an example. It's a draft. It's not finalized. I know it's on there on a PDF, Mr. Johnson. I see you going, hey, there's some mistakes on there. Don't want him to be too worried about that. So that's what it is. Under the umbrella of federal programs is also special education. Special education is a program. Some people may have heard of the term IEP, or an individualized education program. A special education program is one where students are identified as having a disability that impacts their education. There's three prongs to special education. One is there a disability that's evident? Is it having a severe impact on the student's academics? And third, specially designed instruction is required. Those three things are necessary for a student to qualify for special education. And that doesn't mean that if a student is struggling, that we automatically want to use special education as a way to say, hey, you need to have this help. Because the philosophy at our school is, if a kid needs help, we're not waiting until they're in special education before we provide it. And that's one way where Title I and special ed can work hand in hand. And that is the process that we're following. Those are the guidelines that we follow as I visit with our Title I instructors, our special ed instructors. We're not trying to say, I can't work with you until you're on an IEP. We want to help everybody. And that's worked really well in the 2 years that I've been here as superintendent. And I'm really pleased with the process and the progress that we're making in that. Sometimes parents will look and say, well, and even some of our staff members, as we train who should be referred for special education, maybe we should wait. Parents, at any time, if you want us, we can have do an assessment. but it's a process. It's not just a test that you give to say, boom, you have an academic disability, let's automatically put you on. It's a process to see where you're at. And a lot of times there's been some stigma and things in the past. As a former special education teacher, I'm very sensitive to this process as well, because parents love their kids and parents hate to see their kids struggle. And one of the things that we want to try to accomplish here at school is we can't always take away the struggle and the pain that comes with that, but we can do our best to provide a place where the kids have support and provide a place for them to feel like they can be successful in completing their schooling. And that's one of the things that we can, as a small school, you know, with our mission statement, a small school, big opportunities, endless possibilities. Sometimes we might be at a disadvantage with resources in a small school when it comes to special education. But what we might lack in resources, we can try to make up as much as possible with caring and loving and working together and doing the very best that we can. Some of the things that we look at, if a kid has, a common one is maybe ADHD. And if they have ADHD, does that mean that they automatically should be put on or looked at to see if they qualify for special education? That's a yes and a no answer. Because you look back at the 3 prongs, is there a disability? Yeah, they could go to a doctor and have a diagnosis of ADHD. Is it impacting their academics? It possibly could, but do they need a specialized instruction, or can reasonable accommodations be made without that? And we don't want to push to say, oh, you're different because you have ADHD, let's automatically put you on an IEP. So that's not the process that we want to take. We want to have the supports. We want to try, there's a term called a referral process, where we would like to give interventions to the kids, provide those interventions, track their progress, see how they're doing. And if they're making growth, then that means we continue with those interventions and those supports without having to go and automatically put students on an individualized program. I didn't put 504 on here. I should have. I probably could have. That's one thing that fits that element, that there are accommodations that can be provided for students who don't qualify for special education, that do have disabilities like ADHD or others, that in a 504 plan. Again, if Title I is the code, 504 is the code. I don't know my special education. It actually does have a code, but we call it special education. 504 plan would be the same type of thing, where if a disability is present, we can provide those accommodations by law that will help the students. And that's something that parents, if you have those concerns, you can visit with your building principal. They'll help guide that process. Our special education team will help with the process, just because we mix and match our interventions, but the 504 process is guided by the principals. So any questions on federal programs, comments, questions?
I could talk.
I could talk
I have to break.
a lot, but I have to break for a second. So,
All right.
all right, we're going to move on to the second. We did have some questions that came up in the community on school board elections and the district responsibilities, and just wanted to let you know what we found out with that. One of the questions that came out where every school board members do run for terms of 4 years. And this year we do have 2 members whose terms are expiring. And the question came out was, why is the district not advertising that those spots are up for election? And I'll be honest with you, with everything, I'm going, were we supposed to? It was nothing that ever came across my training or any of the superintendent meetings or anything that I was ever in. So it caught me off guard. And at first I thought, well, maybe we messed up. Maybe we should have advertised it, but we didn't. So we reached out to the Idaho School Boards Association, and we were able to be directed to Idaho Code, which I don't know why it didn't come up right there. It's Idaho Code 34. Should have double checked that before on. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second so I can pull it up on my Google. I'm not sharing it there, am I? Okay. Let me just,
No.
did it come up on yours? So those of you at home are seeing this. Let me just quickly refresh and see. Nope, it came back up. All right, reshare. Pull up Zoom again. And I didn't even, as we first started, I jumped right into Title 1 because I was so excited about it. Those of you at home wondering why I might be like, I don't know if you can see it. It is pajama day. It is pajama day at the district. Pajama day or Where's Waldo, whatever you want to look at with that. So 34-1405 says the county clerk shall publish a notice for the forthcoming candidate filing deadline. As we looked into it, I asked, in the 2 years that I've been here, when has the district possibly made an announcement about an election? And the only thing that we could come up with is if there was a vacancy. That was if there was members of the board who were on it, currently on the board, chose not to run, or they came out and said, I am not running. A notice was going out saying, look, there's going to be a vacancy there. The awkward part is the board is my boss. And if you really think about how awkward that would be, is if I'm advertising something for their job from the district, it just kind of an interesting spot. So we did find out that it wasn't our responsibility as a district to have to notify unless there's a vacancy for it. One thing as a courtesy that was on our website several years ago was just a list of the board members and their terms. When we went to the new website 2 years ago, that didn't get put over, and we quickly put that up, not because we were trying to hide anything, but just we didn't know that it didn't get transferred over. So that's how it went with that. So we appreciate the questions that came for that. Feel free to call the district. I know sometimes it's more fun to put it on social media because it gets the fire going on the community, but that could have been a question that was brought to us. But we are sensitive because we want to make sure that you have the information that's there that we can give to you. Moving on to number 4, stakeholder consultation feedback, safe return to school plan. As I met with our school board and other administrators, we're doing the same thing we did last year, and it's been so far working great. As last year, one of the things that when we do have positive confirmed cases of COVID, I'm not going on and announcing it out to the world, saying this is what we have going on, but I do contact the classroom students and parents that need to know. And so we have contacted classroom students and parents. We've had one confirmed case of a student having COVID this year. We called each parent who had a student in that class to give them the option of keeping their kids home or staying in school. I believe we had 100% parents choosing to stay in school. We have not had any other confirmation of a secondary spread because of that. That could be for a lot of different reasons. We do know COVID's in our community. We do know that as we looked at the source of those students who had COVID, it appeared to come from family spread, not from school spread. And so that's very similar with what we had last year with a few other exceptions. We're sticking with that plan unless we get other feedback, but the goal is to keep kids in school. The community has been very supportive on that. And so we will continue with the plan as we've done it. The learning loss spending plan, again, I just wanted to bring this up, and I'll stop and see if there's any other feedback. I brought this up at the last PAW meeting. We're still working on that. That will be completed by October 1st. But we're looking for ways that one suggestion that came up at the last PAW meeting was having a potential camp for academic camp during potato harvest. And so that's one that we will still explore. We still have a couple of weeks, we'd have to throw it together. So here's the calendar for potato harvest. And this is what I'm thinking, to have 4 or 5 days out of the 10 days that are off, that potentially would have a half day on the 29th and the 30th. And I'm trying to decide, do we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Do we just do Wednesday, Thursday, call it 4 days? Thoughts? Annie, I have to pick on you because you're the only parent in here. Have you talked with anybody else about this when that came up? Have you heard any other feedback from anybody?
No, I haven't, honestly. I think it's a great idea. I think that, but the sooner the parents do know the plan.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a great concept, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that needs to be done next year. Like, a lot of people I know already have plans for.
Yeah. And I know a lot of our teachers already have plans, and that's where, as we're going to do a quick survey to say, okay, who would send your kids? How many kids are we talking about? You know, we could do it for 30 kids, like as few as 30 kids. And even if they came and just had some place to come, but I worry about, is it going to be convenience? You know what I mean? Because we're not going to do it all day. And the logistics of, do I have a bus driver? Do we have food services? Do we have teachers willing to do it? Do we have things the teachers could work on? I'm sure the teachers would be able to throw some academic activities and things to go forward with it. But it would be something that I think we could still pull it off, but it might not be as big as we want it to be. We could start small, see how it goes. But I have the same concern as you, as how many people will really take advantage of it.
And is this, doing it right now, is that going to be as effective as maybe planning? I think it's a great concept, a great idea, and it could be pulled off, but
yeah,
how beneficial and what would, I don't know, that's.
And then during harvest break is also another time where maintenance at times is able to get in and do different projects because kids aren't here. Now, for bringing kids back in, does that disrupt the maintenance? So I like the idea. I really do. I think it's something we can keep exploring. The other thing that, as we get further into the academic year, I know these first 2 or 3 weeks, students are just getting their feedback. Teachers are just trying to get back into the groove of things. When we start to get academic data to show us where the students are at, and that's where we make our plans and our goals and say, okay, the kids are here. Now let's make our plan and go. Especially, a plug for parent teacher conference on the 27th. This isn't going to be a time where teachers are going to be able to come in and like say, I've learned everything about your kid, and this is everything that you're doing wrong as a parent. That's not what the goal of a parent teacher conference. A parent teacher conference should be, glad that your kid's back. Here's where we're at. Here's our plan moving forward. That's what we're hoping to have accomplished with that, with parent teacher conference moving forward. But it might be something that, if we did shoot for and try 4 days of a camp just to see what happened, but we'd have to see who's there. Honestly, I don't even know what my plans are with my family.
So you look at that going,
So you look at that going,
I don't know.
It's one of those things that a lot of teachers are working in the potatoes, and bus drivers will drive the trucks a lot. So that was a discussion that came up last time with the learning loss and the safe return. Last thing I have before I open up to any other questions is we have our bond results, and this is what we posted with our special meeting. See if that comes up. Thank you to everyone that did show up to vote. Our bond election was successful with 69.5%. The super majority for a bond is, there are only 2 states in the United States that require a super majority for bond elections. Idaho's one of them. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's Tennessee. I was talking to Annie earlier, that other states have a little bit lower threshold, but a 66 2/3 majority is very difficult to get. And I appreciate our school community looking at the needs of our buildings and our facilities. Like I've said in other meetings, I didn't build the facilities as superintendent. I was able to inherit what we have. And what we have are some really nice facilities that we want to keep for future generations, to create plans to move and say, where are we doing? What are we going to do with our schools and our buildings? The process for bond, just because it passed, we don't have the money right away. The process is a little bit more complicated than any of the other types of elections where we have the supplemental levy and the plant facility that's generated right from Jefferson County. A bond is one where we will now go out into the bond market and have investors that will get the money through our financial advisors. And then that's where the money will start to come in with the bond that are funded that way. But honestly, this is not a fun part of being superintendent, to come in and say, I need to propose something that's going to raise your taxes. How popular is that? That is not popular. My job, however, is to be entrusted to do what's best for the kids and for the facilities and West Jefferson School District. The state does not provide money for major building projects and major remodels. We are funded the bare bones to be able to pay salaries, keep the lights on, and minimum maintenance. That's what we're funded on. Everything else is required to come back through the local community, and that's just how it is in every single school district. We know of districts in our community that have spent decades trying to pass bonds, and they've had buildings shut down because of that. I'm excited about the projects that we have with this. The roofs that need to be fixed. I know that doesn't sound exciting, but it's nice. It's stressful when I walk through and I see, leaky buckets and leaky spots. It's going, oh, really? And we've been able to fix roofs in the last 2 years where the buckets are no longer there. It was nice to walk into the Hamer School this last year and say, there's not buckets out here in the front. Like we have that sealed off. It's nice to be able to go to the different buildings here with the, back by the band room and by the weight room this last year. And now we have the high school part that we need to get that. That's going to be our first real necessary spot, is get the roofs completed. But I'm excited about the auditorium. I'm excited about the old high school gym, giving that a facelift. It hasn't been, as I talked with Mr. Soderquist, that hasn't been touched really in the 20 plus years or 30 years that he's been here as a maintenance worker and now supervisor. So I just, want to say thank you to those that wanted to invest in our schools. That is something that it's not a bonus. I didn't get a bonus check for this. This is all going to go 100% into the schools. So humbled by the outpouring of support. I know 69.5%. You think, well, you only passed by 2%. Yeah, we did, but still 70% of the community is supporting our schools, and I appreciate that, and we'll do all we can to hopefully continue to have your support in what we're doing here at the schools. That's all I have on my planned agenda. I will open it up for questions or comments at all. I guess everybody will know who's asking the questions, and that's Mr. Johnson, unless you have anything you want to report at all. To put you on the spot for it. So,
quick bond questions.
yes.
Process of projects that you had listed, those are just proposed. So now at this point it goes, you decide how you want to do it, and the school board votes.
So what we'll do is we'll secure the funding, but I'll go to Mr. Soderquist. It's going to be the roofs. The roof has to be fixed first. And so part of it is what's available with the materials. So it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of just sitting back and saying, hey, I really want to do this, I really want to do that. We're going to look at priority first with the roof projects. Then it's going to be availability of contractors, availability of materials, and it's going to go that route. The bigger projects, when we look at that, there will be a bidding process that will have to go out. There are different bidding rules that would need to be followed. And then that's something that I need to look into to say, okay, it's already been approved. Now, where does the school board come in and say, do this now, do that there? That's the part that I still need to look into exactly, because this is the first bond that I've ever been part of. But that's a really good question. Okay, so where should we go with this? And that's where even patron feedback right now is like, hey, we really need to hit this. We really need to get to that. That's okay to reach out to your school board members and say, hey, we got the bond pass. Let's make sure we get this, because we have that list, and that list wasn't to try to trick people. I don't throw the auditorium on there to go, hey, everybody likes Mrs. Erickson, and let's just tug at their heartstrings and try to get them to pass this. And psych, just kidding. We're gonna go and build a new. I was gonna say baseball field, but we're not doing that. But we know this bond process is different because of the different restrictions we have on available workers, available construction costs. I think it's come down a little bit, but it might, you know what I mean? It's a little bit trickier compared to different years.
And any purchase over $5,000, the school board has to approve. And so it always comes before the board.
Yep.
Mr. Soderquist was really good at making the list of priorities.
Yeah.
Finding out whether or not we can proceed, and then we present it to the board.
And we did pass a 5-year bond. We had an option to go to a 10-year, which might have decreased the impact on the taxpayers. But most people that we talk to like the shorter ones. And bonds, and the tricky part about bonds is you have to spend all the money in the first 3 years. So there's no sense paying it off for 20 for that much longer. If we ever did have a major, like a $12 million bond to rebuild like a big section of a school, you would want a longer bond period. Some of the questions that people had to say, well, if you hit that bond and you get 10 years into that bond out of a 20-year, you can't ever bond again. But that's not true, because as property values increase, the limit to rebond without changing it goes back up. And so that is something that other districts have done, where they've had longer term bonds, but those are generally districts that are experiencing more student growth, even though we have had increases in property values, which has improved our ability to be able to ask for those types of things for our schools.
Also, I was asked, Hamer roof is
Done.
Was the whole thing replaced or patched?
Replaced.
The whole thing patched.
Yep. The west side was done the second month I was superintendent, and then this spring we finished off the other half.
It looks really nice.
There's no leaking. We have to protect the facilities, and I know that, like I said, Harvest and Hamer were like the two no-nos. You can't speak about that, or it just makes people mad. But we have Harvest Break in our district, and we have Hamer Elementary in our district, and those things are going to continue. It's just part of what it's going to be. If the school, I'm saying, ever came to a spot where it wasn't feasible to have students up there, it would be so clear for all of us. But what Hamer does for the district, I'm not getting choked up because I went to like Hamer Harvest. Oh boy. But what Hamer Elementary offers Territon people are smaller class sizes in your grades K through 3. If we brought the students from Hamer directly, we would have class sizes of near 25 in those. And that's, and depending some grade levels, there's been years that our people here haven't been having babies. I don't know. They got to have more babies so the kids can come to school here. And we know that it will fluctuate, but our attendance, it's not going down. It's not skyrocketing. It's holding steady with a slight upward trend right now. And we anticipate that to continue. We anticipate to continue to have, you know, a lot of people coming from the Roberts Rigby area where that school district's growing really large. It goes back to our mission statement. It's a small school with big opportunities, and that's why people are coming out here. And so I've heard a lot of positive support about, you know, education isn't cheap. It's an investment into the future, and it's something that I'm not going to shy away and pretend and apologize for. And I'm not going to apologize for asking to fix our buildings. I'm not going to apologize for asking to keep our teachers here. But I will say thank you. You know, it is humbling. It's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. Sorry, it really is, because it's a big responsibility. But you look at the kids this last week, you know, we've had some fun homecoming activities this last year with COVID, where we had things taken away. We were trying to get back into it. School's an important part. It's an important part of our community. It's an important part of these kids' lives, and we hope to continue to provide a good product for them. Good question. Keep them coming. It's actually more fun when people are here asking questions. So much better. But we're excited about the bond process. When it comes to the projects, when we get more clarity on where we're at with the finance side and the legal side of getting that rolling, it'll probably take a couple months, and then we'll start moving into the projects. So, well, if that's all the questions we have, anybody at home, if you have questions that we didn't answer, feel free to, you know, call us here at the district office or reach out. We'd be happy to answer the questions the best we can. And again, it's homecoming week. I'm just going to put a plug. If you're watching this and you're not watching later, we have game night tonight. They're going to have some spike ball and some cornhole and different things in the main gym. The high school students. Then Friday, there's Panther Olympics starting at 11:15 in the main gym. So students will come to school, they'll check into first hour, we'll grill them with tests and academic learning, and then they'll go out and do some service projects around the property. And so the students will split up into different groups. They'll bring their gloves, different things, roll up their sleeves, and work on some projects. Then we'll meet back in the main gym for what they call Panther Olympics. When I was in school, it was just basically competition day where the different classes would do different games. But with the Panther Olympics, they have different events, so the different classes will come down. The community is invited to come watch that. I'm going to put it on NFHS also. I don't know how that will turn out, but we'll have somebody announce it on NFHS. The students from the elementary, they'll have a chance to come over and watch for a few minutes before their lunchtime. It's really fun. Wear your Panther blue and white. We had a great turnout at our volleyball game last night, and our Buff Puff, Powder Puff on Monday. I think the kids have a dance on Saturday.
There's a volleyball tournament on Saturday.
Volleyball tournament all day Saturday. Grid Kid on Saturday. It's nonstop. This is a busy, fun week. So that's an announcement. Those are my plugs for this upcoming week.